This episode is titled Standing Up for Yourself. Something we kind of forget that isn't talked about much. You have to stand up for yourself, because if you don't, your self-esteem goes right into the cosmic toilet.
The feeling of being bullied, the feeling of having a group of kids tear you down, mentally, emotionally, the physical, attack on you, those leave a very deep impression.
If teasing and making fun of you hurts you, then the person's going to keep doing it.
What do kids say to you, the bully? What exactly do they say to you?
It was about how big I was fat, just insults like that.
Pecking order has to do with a barnyard and a bunch of chickens. And they all peck on the weakest of the chickens.
In the beginning, I did take it personally, and it did really affect how I thought and moved, and it really did dig deep.
He gets pecked on by the meanest rooster, the next meanest rooster, the next meanest, all the way down. He's the low man on the totem pole.
I was about 8 or 9, and it was really bad then when I was in elementary school and middle school.
Now, if he would go ahead and peck one of those chickens and whip the next chicken up, they'll typically all leave him alone now, because they know he'll fight, that he'll protect himself. All he's got to do is peck back.
I grew up shy. I was overweight. I still am. I don't care. I'll get there when I get there. But that prompted the kids in school to make fun of me.
What'd they call you?
I'm Japanese, which you can't probably see now, but it was more prominent when I was younger. They made fun of me because of that. Slanty eyes, whatever. They called me fat a lot.
One time I actually asked a kid why he felt that he needed to insult me, and they just become completely lost and feel awkward and walk away.
Really? You never got an answer why?
No, I have never gotten an answer that was coherent.
When I got to middle school, though, there's that movie that came out called Stand By Me. Mm-hmm. And they do the boom baba when I walked. I just started joining in on it one day.
What'd you do?
I just started going boom baba. When I walked down the hall, I just start doing that. So, and then
What did they do?
They were stunned. It made me feel great, and it changed everything for me, because I was laughing at myself. I knew I was overweight. I knew that other kids, the skinny popular kids, were making fun of me. So I just said, I'm just gonna do it my own way. That was my favorite movie anyway. So I wasn't gonna let them take that favorite movie of mine and turn it into something that I would hate.
You got to remember, too, growing up and being laughed at probably mostly every day of my life. Here's a great story. In high school, I'd play ping pong. Now, to throw a ball, I would have to swing my whole body and just to throw a ball 30 feet. I have to use every muscle I had. Well, anyway, to play ping pong, I'm really good. I don't know why or how that happened. But I would be at a party, and I'd play people in ping pong, and I'd whoop them. And they'd say, well, you're pretty good for you. And I go, for me, I just whoop you.
It doesn't make any sense. It seems like they're just kind of troubled, and they think they need to take it out on me.
It's those comebacks. I was so ready when people would tease me or laugh at me. I had to have something.
There's a boy, me and him came up with, he said, they're calling you elephant. He said, well, why don't we just make it shellephant? So I came up with the term shellephant, and because my name's Shelly, so play on words. So, hey shellephant, hey there, how you doing? Didn't bother me. Just another day at school.
It really didn't bother you?
Really didn't. After that, like when I was younger, it just all of a sudden it clicked in that, when I was talking about the boom baba thing, it clicked. I'm not taking this anymore. This is stupid for me to have my life revolve around these people and what they think about me.
It's really pathetic how easy it is to make them just want to leave. After a while, everybody just realized every time I go up to him, I end up looking like a moron, so I may as well not do it anymore.
You feel so prideful when you walk away from that situation that you've flipped the switch right on somebody. You feel proud of yourself to walk away.
At one time, I actually think I hurt a kid because he really wanted to mess with me, and I turned his words around, and there were a lot of kids around, and he was raising his voice, so I raised mine, and everybody ended up laughing at him, and he ran away, and I felt kind of guilty because he wanted to pick a fight with me, but I mean, I wish people would just stop because they're hurting themselves more than they're hurting me, because I've just learned to just brush it off.
That's really interesting, Joshua. So you found it really bothered you that you possibly could have hurt that kid even though he started it.
Yeah, I don't like hurting other people's feelings.
I have a handicap parking space, okay? And when I lived in,
I think you've earned that.
not a space, I'm sorry, parking placard. But anyway, we'd go to the Oakland A's, San Francisco Giants games, and my friends always wanted me to drive. And I'm like, finally after a couple times I figured out, they're just taking advantage of my disability. They just want to park up front. That's bull. I suffered to earn that placard. And so one day we're there and I parked 300 yards away and pulled into this space, normal one, all alone, no other cars around. I said, get out. They're like, get out. I'm like, yeah, I'll meet you up front.
My first fight, there was a neighborhood kid that lived a few doors from me that bullied me. I was the fastest kid in the neighborhood for my age, so I could just always outrun him. He'd punch me when I wasn't looking, and stuff like that.
That would be bullying.
Or he'd threaten me, and I'd take off running. One day, my mother was pregnant with either my brother or my sister, and she was sitting in a chair out at the edge of the street, and this kid came down there, was kind of mouthing off with me, and he picked up a rock and threw it at me, and I stepped out of the way, and he hit my mother in the face with the rock. So I punched him, and he went home crying. The rest is history.
At that moment, you weren't afraid of him.
No, I was defending my mom. It was just, I didn't even think about it.
Did you hurt him?
Oh yeah, he went home crying. I never had problems with that kid again.
Now let's continue that story. Your dad did something really cool after that.
I think my dad was standing in the screen door of the house and saw all this happen. So I remember he looked down at me and he said, come on inside, son. And I thought, oh, I bet I'm in trouble. He's go upstairs, and of course, I was all sweaty, and heck, I might have been crying too, just from the emotion of the minute. But he said, go on upstairs and get cleaned up and put your good clothes on. So I did, and he didn't say anything to me. He said, get in the car. I thought, boy, where's he going to take me to give me a whipping, He drives me to the Cat's Drug Store in North Kansas City. And we walk in there, and we go up to the soda fountain, and he goes, order whatever you want. I'm thinking, what is going on here? So I still remember I ordered a scoop of vanilla ice cream with a cherry on top of it. Had that. Joe Falk's toy store right across the street. We walk across there, and he goes, pick out anything you want. Still remember this. I picked out a John Nagy Learn to Draw kit.
No kidding.
Why would I buy that? God only knows. My dad says, do you understand why I did this? And I said, no, sir. And he said, you defended your mother, and I'm proud of you. And so I was proud of myself, I guess.
Did that kind of set everything up for your future? Because by some terms, people would call you would you be a scrapper?
Well, I might have been. I do think for a short period of time, I thought that if I whipped every neighborhood bully that I was going to get ice cream and a John Nagy Learn to Draw kit. My dad had to rein me in a little bit.
At age 3 years old, Ton Newwood left his home in Vietnam during the fall of Saigon. His mother and two sisters went by boat to Guam, then on to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. They lived in Section 8 housing, the ghetto. Because of the Americans' hatred of the Vietnam War, Ton and his family were constantly ridiculed.
You can sense when someone doesn't like you.
Yeah.
When they walk by you in the stairwell, they bump you. When they're walking through the door that has to be buzzed in, they close it before you can get to it.
Okay. Men and women both doing this to you, or primarily men?
Men and women.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, there were families, I remember families telling their children they were not allowed to play with us because we were Vietnamese.
Oh, gosh.
So when you hear other adults tell their children, your peers, that you can't play with me because I'm Vietnamese, I then, as a child, have to question what's wrong with me.
Was there back verbally, or was it pretty much physically?
I wasn't really a talker. No, I mean, you see that in kids today. Everybody's mouthing at everybody. No, that was always a good way to get popped in the mouth, was mouthing off.
Every day I walked to school, I had to fight my way to school.
How old were you?
8.
How far was the walk?
It was across the complex. It was a good 5-minute walk. And so during this walk, all the other kids were walking at the same time because we all went to the same elementary school. And of course, as we're making our way, the bullies, as they normally would, have their staked out areas.
Guys.
The guys.
How many? 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, I mean, no, I don't think there was any less than 5, running in packs of 5. And so once they saw me, it was a beeline straight to me with, harassment, pushing. And
All 5, 1, or just mainly all?
it would start with 1. And then once the fighting started, the others would jump in. So to protect myself or my sisters, I would cut them off at the pass, and it would turn into a fight.
Physical downright fight.
Physical downright fight. And once we were done, they would at some point they would say this, they're bored. They'll walk off to school. I'll gather my things. My sister will help me pick up my stuff, and we'll walk off to school too.
You had a young lad right now, you're the dad, and you had a kid at school, and he came back and said, these guys are pushing me around the locker. What would you tell him?
I'd ask him if he liked putting up with that and if he liked how he felt every time that happened to him. And how long are you going to let him do that? Are they just going to do that to you every day? Or do you just want to go ahead and pop him in the mouth and wail on him for a while, and he may beat you up, but then it's all over with. It goes to the pecking order again. Once someone understands you will stand up for yourself, that you will fight them, even if this bully knows he can whip you 100 out of 100 times, he's going to know that every time I mess with him, he's going to hit me in the mouth, he's going to bloody my lip, and I don't like that.
Because I wasn't afraid to fight back, at some point they just got tired of having to physically fight me.
You did fight back.
I did. Yeah. I mean, it didn't hurt any less emotionally and mentally. It's just I had no other choice. You also have to put yourself in a position where you think, if it isn't just fighting back physically, what else do I have to do to get these guys to accept me? Because if they accept me, they'll stop fighting me, or they'll stop bullying me. And that's where humor comes in. Imagine if you're on the ground and they're bullying you on the ground, and you're like, oh my God, you're so heavy. And all of a sudden they're like, what? It's like, yeah, what'd you eat, man? You're heavy. Or if there are the other 4, minions behind them, and you're like, oh, can I just choose one of you guys to fight and not all of you today? It isn't using humor to be part of his bullying. It's using humor to get him to stop.
Before you went to school or on the way home, did you start thinking in your brain, what if I say this? I could say this to him.
No, absolutely.
You
have to
planning.
plan and prepare for it. And and that's a skill set I have, a discipline that I have now in the workplace.
Yes.
It's planning.
Yes.
I mean, it's thinking ahead, because
Yes.
you have to really think, what is that person going to say to me in this boardroom, or in this meeting? The individual who does participate in hate, they actually just come up to your face and tell you, I don't like your kind. I should have shot you when you were a baby, when I was in Vietnam.
And I can tell by your eyes, people have said that to you.
Absolutely.
No kidding.
Absolutely. I have had fathers of girls that I've dated tell me, I don't like the fact that you're dating my white daughter so that you can get a step up in the social ladder. Her mom chimes in as well. Yes. Do you realize how people will look at you while you're dating my daughter?
What do you do when he says that to you?
It's like being back in the ghetto. You gotta figure, you decide, and immediately I decide, I have to win this person over. I have to correct their interpretation of mixed race couples. I have to try and help them believe that their view of the world may not be as accurate. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen.
Sure.
I'm saying it may not be as horrible as you think it will be. You have to make the choice to stop the cycle. So we would have the conversation. I would ask, why do you feel that way?
Directly. You just-
Directly. Because at that point, you don't have to be polite anymore. They've taken polite off the table, right?
Yeah.
Why do you feel that way?
Did they ever ask you to leave?
They did not, which was nice. Because our conversation actually went down the road of trying to find out, why do you think I'm so bad? And it's comes from misinformation. It comes from their own fears of how people will look at them. Not just their daughter,
That's it.
but them.
Them. It's more about them than their daughter, isn't
Absolutely. Will they always hear you or even care what you have to say? Probably not. But you can choose to address it. Now remember earlier I said people who hate, they want you to justify why they hate you. So they're hoping to evoke a particular response from you, one that's also hate. So by you getting physical or you lashing back out and being just as hateful or racist, they can say, see, I told you. That guy is just as terrible as I thought he was.
Are you also saying they're using hate because they want to justify their own hate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a possibility too, you think?
No, it's a fact. It's not just a possibility. It justifies why I behave with hate if you act that way.
Where'd you learn that?
I don't know. I think at some point for me it just became a matter of I can't be like them. And so if you start there by realizing you don't want to be the very same bitter and angry and hateful person, then you start realizing that you can make your own changes and your own decisions, and that you can be better than that, and then you can go out and help others understand that they don't have to fall into the same trap.